and welcome to the second episode of The Paradigm Shift. I'm Erica Bryce.
And I'm Samantha Fisher. And for this episode, we're going to be discussing the different valuation services that can be provided when performing a business valuation.
That's right. So some folks might not even be aware that there's different options when it comes to valuing a business. And it's important to understand the different options and their differences so you're getting the right service for your specific situation. The two main types of valuation services are valuation and calculation. A valuation is generally going to be a full scope engagement, whereas a calculation is going to generally be a limited scope engagement. In order to understand the differences between the two, Sam's going to start us off with a little description of what goes into a valuation.
Right. So, as Erica mentioned, a valuation is going to be your full service option. So this is generally going to include reviewing your company data, your industry economy, your ratios, and then considering all the relevant, reasonable, generally accepted methodology. The deliverable typically consists of schedules as well as a written report which explains the different methodology and all of these items that were reviewed or considered and relied upon. Ultimately, this results in a conclusion of value.
Right. On the other hand, a calculation engagement is more akin to an agreed upon procedures. And in this type of engagement, the valuation analyst is going to work with the client, figure out what methods of valuation they want to look at and they want to include, and the scope is going to be limited in that regard. The deliverables can vary. It can be schedules and or a report, but regardless, the end value is considered a calculation of value. And a calculation report is required to disclose that all necessary valuation procedures were not performed, and if they had been, the value that resulted could be different.
Right, and it's also important to note that that you cannot mislead the intended user of your report as to not only what type of analysis you're performing, but you also can't mislead them that the value would have resulted in a different value if you had performed some of these additional services or provided additional scope.
Right. So you can't choose to do a calculation with the intent of misleading somebody.
Right.
So who's saying you can't do that? That would be one of several authoritative bodies that have issued professional standards on valuation services. This includes NACVA, the National Association of Certified Valuators and Analysts, the American Society of Appraisers, and the AICPA, American Institute of Certified Public Accountants.
Right, and although each of these organizations and credentialing bodies, although they may have slight differences between their standards, generally these are all going to be very similar. So each of the credentialing bodies have converged to come up with a substantially similar set of standards. Which leads us to our next question: when is it appropriate to use a calculation of value versus a conclusion of value?
Certainly. Generally speaking, valuations are going to be appropriate when you're giving an expert opinion in a litigation setting or for any valuations that are required to be reported to the IRS.
Right, so that's going to be your gift and estate tax returns.
Exactly. Conversely, calculation engagements are a good option if you just need an estimate for planning purposes or if there's missing information that would prevent us from doing a full valuation engagement. And because calculation engagements are limited scope, they're a good option for clients that want to save money. Maybe there's some cost-saving benefit there.
Absolutely. I think that's a really great summary for today. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to you joining us on our next episode of Paradigm Shift.
For if there's missing information, which would result in that scope limitation preventing us from doing a full valuation. I did so good on that on my learned piece that I can't change it.
Thank you again for joining us on our next episode here, and we look forward to speaking with you guys again our next. Come on, I can't do this while you're sparking at me.